Hi everyone, good evening. Good to be on this first session of the book review. And today's book for reviewing is Atomic Habits. Actually, most of you that I've spoken to know about my journey because I've been quite open about it. My ventures, my two failed ventures initially, and then the successful third one that's going on now. And I can attribute my somewhat sort of success in the last 2 years to two things actually. One is actually a newly acquired skill, that's reading books. And the second one is actually following mentors who helped me to realize my potential. I had not stepped into a classroom after I quit college, after I quit in the sense after I finished my college. And my journey in the last few years has taken me to so many amazing teachers, mentors, and I think these two things are something which are very important for one to grow. One is reading books, and second is being in the vicinity of some good mentors. Okay, so without any further delay, let me just start my review of the book. So I'll just share my MindMeister, my screen here. I think you can see that. Let me just switch on the screen in the presentation mode. Okay, fine. So the book that I'm reviewing today is Atomic Habits, and this is written by James Clear. It's an amazing book, and why it's amazing you'll realize now shortly. Now, every incident or everything that is done in terms of progress of a person, in terms of where that person has reached in life, is also there is some background story to it. There is some inspiration, some background story or something which has happened in his or her life, which has led them into a series of events which has brought them here. So let's understand exactly what is the inspiration for writing this book and what are the credentials of the author. Okay, and this is something which really I felt very happy to read this, because this part I feel is the part which will make you resonate with the author, and we'll understand from where he or she is coming. So James Clear actually says that in his final years of high school, he was hit on the face by a baseball bat. Until then, he was an aspiring athlete, wanting to be a baseball player in school and future as a career as well. And just imagine the kind of misery that he would have gone through, because what happened subsequent to this were a series of events which actually made him to step out of school and also go into a series of surgeries, because he was in coma for many days, and then series of surgeries later. It was just like a back and forth between the hospital and home, and for his parents also it was traumatic, for his siblings also it was traumatic. So from there he actually went about weaving back the credentials or the thread of his life. He says since he was not going to be starting on baseball team anytime soon, he focused on getting his life in order. He says while his peers stayed up in college, when he went to college, he says while his peers stayed up and played video games, and what he did was he built sleep habits and went to bed early each night. Sometimes they say that your hardships in life, the challenges that you face in life, is something which is actually preparing you for something really very big in life. And that's what James Clear's experience tells us. So these improvements were minor, but they gave him a sense of control over his life. The growing belief in him rippled into the classroom as he improved in study habits as well. He started improving in study as well and managed to earn straight A's during his first year in college itself. And then what happened was that a habit, was formed for him, which was to stay for life. So once a series of habits are formed, once you know that certain habits work for you, you always are in the path of building still more better habits. And he'll explain the importance of habits as we go along. I'll come to that slide as well. He's beautifully explained the importance of habits. I'll tell you that it was an eye-opening thing for me. So he says a habit is a routine or behavior that is performed regularly and in many cases automatically. That means even without us realizing it, we will be conducting those habits and we'll be doing those routines. Okay. So as each semester passed, he says he accumulated small yet consistent habits which ultimately led to results that were unimaginable to him when he started. Okay. And this is something you also will realize that in your life, if you look back, I'm sure you have got some experiences in your life and which would have brought you to a stage now. And there are certain aspects of your life which you are really proud of. And if you look back and see what is it that led you to that path and what is it that evolved into the person that you have become in that sphere of your life, you'll realize that there were small consistent habits on a regular basis that have changed and shaped to helping you become who you are today. Okay. So then he goes on to say that 6 years after he had been hit in the face with a baseball bat, being flown to the hospital, placed into a coma, he was selected as the top male athlete at the university and was named the academic All India All American team. He was given that honor, and that honor is given to only 33 players across USA, and he was given that honor. Further, he was awarded the university's highest academic honor, the President's Medal also. He's talked about a series of awards that he's got. I've just picked up two of them here. And, this is something which, when you look at someone who has gone through struggles which are unimaginable, struggles which probably, will make you shudder, and you see that they have come out as winners, you definitely want to sit up, take note of them, and see what is it that drives them. How do they do the things? Because one of the important things I learned from my journey with my amazing mentors in the last 4-5 years is that if you can get condensed knowledge, wisdom from the experience of someone else, that is the best thing that you can do. Because instead of us trying to discover the same path for ourselves, we can reduce the time for us in terms of learning, implementing, and faltering, and again changing the course of doing the course correction by just straight learning from someone and implementing it. Of course, there will be ups and downs even in that journey, but you'll have at least something to fall back upon. You'll have some wisdom to fall back upon, and you'll also have some kind of a method to the madness that you're involved in. Okay. So he says, maybe there are people who can achieve incredible success overnight. I don't know of any of them, and I'm certainly not one among them. He says, there wasn't one defining moment in my journey from medically induced coma to academic All-American. There were many. Okay. You'll understand the context of this in the subsequent slides now. So let's understand what are habits. Okay. So according to James Clear, habits are behavior that we perform automatically with little or no thought. Okay. Surprising powers of atomic habits, he says. Atomic habits, he says, is these small habits which is done routinely on a daily basis. Okay, that's why he calls it atomic habits. And if it's repeated daily, even the smallest action, he says, can have a huge effect. Okay, and there's another statement which is very, very impactful. I'll just come to that later. So he says, positive changes require patience, but you can be confident that good habits are keeping you on the right trajectory, even if you don't see immediate results. Because sometimes what happens is that I discuss with some of my friends and my colleagues, I tell them that, when we look at it, you want to build up your body, and then you go to the gym for 1 week, for 1 month, for 2 months, 3 months. And then when you look around yourself, in the mirror, you don't feel like, you're done much. One reason is because you're always harsh on yourself. And even if you're not harsh, even if you're pragmatic, and if you're practical, you would not see the results that you would want to see. And then suddenly the interest wanes down, right? So he says, tiny changes to your behavior are enough to lead to the desired results. It is the small changes that you do, the habits that you inculcate. He says, he gives a proper example also, a mathematical example also. He says, even if you were to do 1% improvements of yourself on a daily basis, by the end of the year, you can reach to 37 times improvement in terms of abilities and capabilities. And if you were to deteriorate in the rate of 1% per day, you could become 0.03%. It could be really wearing off all the credentials and the credibility that you have in the period of 1 year. So he talks about these habits, which are small habits, which can make a huge impact to our lives. He started with this beautiful example. Okay, this example is mind-boggling. He says that the governing body of professional cycling in Great Britain hired Dave Brailsford as its performance director because the track record of cycling, Great Britain's team in cycling, was pathetic for not 1 year, 2 years, for 100+ years. I think they had only one medal in the meantime, in that 100, 110 years. So they rightly decided that let's get someone who can look at how to improve the performance of this team. And what Mr. Dave Brailsford did is actually something which is really amazing. Okay, he says he came up with this formulation. He said the aggregation of marginal gains. That's a philosophy he adopted. He says when you search for tiny margin of improvement in everything you do, the end result over a period of time is something which is unbelievable and spectacular. Okay, he says if you broke down everything that you think of that goes into riding a bike, this is a practical thing that how he implemented it. Okay, he said if you broke down everything you could think of that goes into riding a bike and then improve it by 1%, not much, just 1%, you will get a significant increase when you put them all together. Okay, so that led him to do these things. Okay, small things. He started with looking at everything along with its teammates with a magnifying glass. He says, what can we change? What can we improve? Will it have a bearing on the end results? Okay. And sometimes we tend to take things very easily, especially sometimes we have this thing, chalta hai attitude, it's okay, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's okay is also okay, because in the book, he has also written somewhere else that habits, even if you don't do it 100% of the time, there is a way and means for life to aggregate that and average it out and give you the benefit of doubt, give you all the help to ensure that that doesn't affect you in the long term. But cumulative habits which you do on an unconscious level, if you do it the right way, the right things, then it will have the cumulative effect of giving you amazing results in the end. Okay, so he says what they started off was redesigning the bike seats, rubbed alcohol on the tires for a better grip, riders to wear electrically heated overshorts to maintain ideal muscle temperature so that they don't get cramps, used biofeedback sensors to monitor how each and every athlete responded to different workouts, tested various fabrics, switched to lighter aerodynamic indoor racing suits, and many more. Each of these small things, they made changes. And the results were just in 5 years. After Brailsford took over, the British cycling team dominated the road and track cycling events at the Olympics, won 60% of the gold medals available. Just imagine, from about 110 years of track record of this country's cycling team, of hardly having one medal over a span of 110 years, coming to a stage of in 5 years being able to win 60% of the gold medals that are available. Spectacular. And these things actually make you sit upright and take note of the author. The author has got terrific background. Just look him up on the Google. James Clear, amazing person. He's got his own website. He's got his habits forming website where he helps us to create and improve our habits and inculcate the right habits. He's got tools for us to do that. But I think the first starting point is this book. Please read this book. Okay. And I'll give you a hack. Basically in the last few months, what I'm doing is I'm actually taking the physical copy of the book or a soft copy. And plus I'm also listening to these books on Audible. So when I listen to it and I read it, I get the double benefit of engaging my visual as well as my auditory, my senses, so that helps me to achieve a lot in a short period of time. Okay. Wait till the end, in the end, I've got a small video where I'll play exactly from where I came from and why I believed that I'm a poor reader. Okay. And my experience of having an self-image of being a good reader is just about 6 months old. Okay, I'm being very frank with you. You can check out the last video. You'll come to know. Okay, so During the 10-year span, British cyclists won 178 World Championship and 66 Olympic gold medals and captured Tour de France. That's a most prestigious cycling event of the world. Okay, and in which it was the greatest success for British cycling history. Okay, and this is something which this people achieved. Okay, now come to this important point. Just I'll pause for a moment. Please pay attention here. This part is really something which you need to sit up and take note of. He says, the author says, it is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment, because we expect that one defining moment, one moment, and one spectacular big thing will change the course of your life. And he says, and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Too often we convince ourselves that we need a massive success, and that massive success can come only through massive action, which is like big, very big things. But he says the truth is that it's these small things that will make a huge difference. And those small things done as a habit on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, makes a huge difference to one's lives. For me, two areas of our lives are very important. One is financial freedom, abundance in terms of wealth creation. And the second one is in terms of taking care of your health, being health-wise abundant. And I seriously believe that all of this takes time. The reason when I look back, I feel that I've done quite well for myself in these two areas. And I don't see myself having achieved that in the last 6 months, 1 year or 6 years or 5 years. It's happened over a period of about 20 years or so. Okay. And I remember clearly 2001 was the time when I started embarking on this journey of building up my expertise in these two areas. I was working for a company, but then I fully resonated with these two areas of my personal life. And I really felt that I should do something. The good or bad part of it was that I stumbled upon certain things that I did the right way. I just didn't know about it. But now when I get the structure of it from these books and from the learnings from the mentors, I feel that this is actually helping me to further improve my game and also to help people to understand where they're getting stuck. And sometimes we stumble, sometimes we make mistakes, but all the same, today is the best of times for us to be living. You have access to all this information, all this knowledge with easy access to it on your internet, right? So let's make the most use of it. Okay, right? So the 4 stages of habit as per James Clear is this. He says that this was actually formulated through the experiments done by Edward Thorndike. He says he conducted experiments on cats where they were given a puzzle. They were kept in some traps, and then they had to break open the trap and come and access the food. So the process of pressing a lever would release the cats, and the reward would be in terms of them being able to escape from the box and get access to a bowl of food. And then he says, as they progressed, initially they were struggling to come out of the box, but as time progressed, they did less and less mistakes with each round of practice, and eventually they came to a stage where the behavior was very, very easy. What took them 15-16 minutes was happening in a matter of 5 seconds or even less. Okay, he says if a behavior is followed by satisfying consequences, in this case the satisfying consequence was the access to freedom and also access to food, good food for the cats, right? So if the behavior is followed by a satisfying consequence, it is more likely to be repeated. And if it has got negative connotation, negative consequences, then less likelihood of it being repeated. Okay, this is what was formulated through the experiment done by Edward Thorndike, right? Now, further, James Clear has beautifully formulated this method. He says there are 4 steps to the habit loop. Every habit has got 4 steps, he says. The first one is the cue. The second is craving. The third one is response. The fourth one is reward. He has actually made this into 2 steps. He says first is the problem step, where you identify the problem. That is in the step of cue and craving. And the second step is the solution step, which is through the response that you have and the reward that you get. Okay, so now the first step is cue, where he says your brain triggers something, and that is a cue, actually indicates that we are close to a reward which triggers a craving. For example, he says, when you smell cookies anywhere, it could be in a mall, it could be in your kitchen, it could be in your living room, if you have placed it there, automatically it triggers something in you. It's a cue for you probably to reach out to the cookie and have it. Or another example he gives, that when you enter a dark room, you can't see anything. So it's a cue for you to do something which can actually bring you out of the pain of not being able to see anything in the room, right? So that is a cue. The second part is craving, the motivational force behind every habit, he says. Okay, so when we crave the change in state, it delivers. So in this case of smelling of cookie, you have this craving that let me have one small bite, one cookie. And if you're getting to a dark room, you want to quickly switch on the light and see that you can be able to see everything clearly there. Okay, so tasting the cookie or being able to see is the craving that you have. Now in the solution stage of response, he says, the actual habit that you perform is the response, the thought and the action that is associated with the thought, because you want to bring down the pain or you want to take care of that craving. For example, mostly each of us will identify ourselves with this craving of reaching out to the phone, checking our phone again and again, right? So this craving, most of us have it, even I have that habit. So keep on reaching out to the phone and you want to check out. The craving is to see whether someone has messaged something, so that you have this self-image that I will respond in X amount of time, and you want to be on the dot, so you keep on looking at the phone, right? So that's a craving. So responsive is you pick up the phone. Okay, now let me just go back to the other screen. Let me make this full screen so that you can get, for some slides you might get this fully and you can see this completely. Okay, fine. So now he says the solution part is response, where you reach out to the phone or switch on the light, or you reach out to the cookie and taste it, have it, right? So then he says it also depends on your motivation. And there is a friction, if it's very difficult for you to reach out, for example, if the cookie is kept somewhere, he's given some tricks for us to stop those cravings. Suppose, you have kept that cookie in a place and locked it up. So you'll have to you've probably hid that key somewhere else, in some other room. Then even the smell of that cookie will make you probably go, now you just go to that place, take that key, go to the other room, open that lock, take out the cookie and eat it. So that's a friction that's created by you. Okay, so that will also decide your response, whether the response is going to be easy and it will be done by you or not. Then the reward is the end goal of every habit. That is, it serves two purposes. It actually satisfies our craving, and the feeling that you get, the good feeling that you get out of having done that activity. Okay, so lesson whether to do it again or not is decided by the rewards that you get, by the feeling that you get from that rewards. Okay, so very nicely and powerfully explained by this gentleman. This book is amazing. So he says that to change habits at the deepest level, you need to change your identity. He's talked about 3 levels of changing the habits. Okay, I'm not, I'll show you this next slide. I have covered straight away the second level. Okay, the first level is actually setting up your goals or what you want to achieve. He says that is the first layer of behavioral change. Okay, first level of behavioral change, layer of behavioral changes where you're having a goal or you're looking at what to achieve. The second level is the process level, where you have formulated what are the steps you will take to take care of those issues. And the third level of behavioral change is identity level. That is, each one of us have got a self-image or a image of an identity that we share. For example, you might think that you're the best athlete, or you're fit, or you're healthy, or you might think that I'm financially very, very sound. I know exactly how to invest, where to invest. Financially, if you ask me any questions, I am very, very clear. I'm in the top 10% of the world's population. So these are the self-images and identity that we have created for ourselves, right? So that is the third level. He says that if you focus on the end outcome, and if you were to conduct your life based on that, then you might have to wait for very long to see that outcome. So you might delay the process of you getting satisfaction, number one. Number two is that even after you get that, you might not be happy. You might see that, okay, this outcome, now next what, you'll keep on moving. So he says the second best thing is to have is in this layers of behavior change. He says second best thing is to have the process based systems, habits that will take us to a level where we will enjoy the process of putting the process in place, of implementing it and inculcating that as like a habit. So that is a better way of doing it. And the third level of better way of doing it is having the identity. Okay, I'll just go to this in detail now. You'll understand this in the slide. Now look at this. He says the process level identity is when systems and habits you build, is through the systems and habits that you build. And he gives some example also. He says identity based habits are what we wish to become. Identity based habits are actually at the deepest level of change that will make you change at the deepest level. And he says that the first step in changing is how you view yourself now and how you wish to view yourself in the future. And he's given some practical example here. Okay, he's saying the example of this thing, that when you label yourself I'll come to the last line here. When you label yourself as the person you want to be, you have made automatically a shift and change in your identity even before you have achieved that identity. Okay, he says that if someone were to ask you, okay, that will you have this product, cheese, instead of saying no thanks, I don't eat animal products, or saying no thanks, I'm trying to be plant-based, instead of saying no thanks, I am plant-based in the present tense. In this way, what you're doing is you have actually changed your identity in your mind that you're already a vegan or a plant-based person. So when someone tells you something, your automatic response is, no, I don't have it. I'm plant-based. I'm actually plant-based person. I always have vegan food. Okay. So shift the identity behind your behavior to create lasting habits, he says. So three levels of identity which he has talked about. So the first level, I'll just remove that. The first level is where he's talking about behavioral change, which will be driven by your outcomes. You're looking at the outcomes or the goals, which is good, he says, but not the best way. The second level and the second best is, he says, you are systems driven. You put in systems or daily habits, which you are actually, he's given some practical tips also in the later part of the book, where he's talked about how to build your habits in such a way that you will stick to it, you will love to do it, and it will become second nature to you, and you will not even realize that it's become a habit. It's become second nature to you. Okay, that is systems. The third level, he says, is where all the magic happens. He says where you have changed your identity itself. If you have identity of a person who's wealthy, a person who is good with his finance, with his or her finance, a person's identity, if you have an identity of a person who's fit, you feel that I'm fit. I don't need to, I don't have to worry about that. I'm fit. Even if you're not really fit, okay? Even if you're on the journey of being fit, if your identity is created that I am fit, automatically that will help you to make small shifts in the habits, and those habits in the long term will have a cumulative effect where you'll reach somewhere else, right? Okay, I'll go back to that previous screen where I shared this screen with you. Okay, fine. Now, let me go back to the screen. Okay, fine. Now, he says that for the identity, if you're going with the third level of working on yourself with the habits, he says first step starts with deciding on the type of person you wish to become. Okay, and this is true with anything in life, right? Anything in life, whether it is to do with your trying to build your business or trying to do some moonlighting and create some additional stream of income by probably taking up coaching, or probably take up additional stream of income by doing some other line of business, joining your friend in some business, or taking up some different role or a different or joining something in the part-time. So many things. So you have decided, okay, you have to take a decision. That will be the first step for you to make the progress towards anything in life, right? So even in here, for changing your identity, you need to have a decision of the type of person you wish to become. So what type of, then once you have that identity clear in your mind, if you want to be fit, you will think, what is the type of person who is fit? Okay. Someone who wakes up in the morning, works out regularly, eats good, clean, healthy food, even before eating clean, healthy food, is aware about what is clean and healthy, who has gone to the right kind of coaches, learn from them as to what kind of food works for them. Because see, I don't want to claim that I'm an expert in everything. So I always have mentors who can teach me about certain aspects of the life, whether it is about fitness, food, nutrition, all of that, right? So someone who works out, someone who's understanding, gone to the right mentors, understood what food to have, your focus now shifts to being someone who is a clean eater, to actually dedicating yourself with the identity that I am a clean eater, I am fit, I practice meditation regularly, I practice visualization regularly, I exercise daily. So this kind of image you'll have, self image you'll have, and that will go a long way in terms of helping you to go and on the path of the right habits. Okay, so now, so prove it to yourself with small wins, he says. Okay, the second step. First is you decide, and second is don't be too harsh on yourself. He has given some practical tips as to how do you cheat yourself, especially when you're looking at forming new habits. He says, suppose you want to start exercising. So on the first day, start with a target of just ensuring that you do 2 minutes of exercise, putting on your shoes, stepping down, going for a walk, or picking up dumbbells and doing 10 reps. That's all. Stop. 2 minutes over, stop. That's it. And do that over a period of 2-3 days. Then try to increase the frequency maybe, or the time duration, all of that. So don't be too harsh on yourself. He says, take small steps to reinforce the identity that you want to inculcate. Okay. Because he says your habits feed into your identity, and your identity feeds into your habit. That means, suppose you are able to do something consistently, your identity of yourself will change. It's very strong, very powerful concept. Huh? Very, very powerful concept. He says your identity of yourself will change when you are doing something on a regular basis, when it's become a habit. And he says that if you have an identity which is of a X, of being a fit person, automatically your habits will tune itself and adjust itself. Even if you go outside the course, you'll do a course correction and you'll come back to that habit and quickly adjust yourself and do that on a regular basis. Okay. So he says, if you want to lose weight, think of yourself, what would a healthy person do before you make different choices throughout the day? Choose the veggies instead of greasy pizza. Walk up the stairs instead of taking the elevator. What would that person who is fit would do? What would I do? Because I'm fit, I have got this image, self-image that I'm fit. What would I do as a fit person? I will try and climb the stairs at the earliest opportunity, right? So he says, embody the person you want to be. Small, seemingly insignificant changes throughout the day add up. Small things, okay? It doesn't have to be major, okay? And his life is a living example of what he has achieved, okay? And that's why respects to him. And what he says has to be taken with a lot of seriousness, okay? Small, seemingly insignificant changes throughout the day add up. Focus on becoming the type of person, not on getting a particular outcome. He says that's a powerful way of you getting outcome. Instead of focusing on the outcome, focus on the systems. But even before that, focus on the identity that you have got of yourself in your mind. Okay. So he says habits are important because they can change the beliefs you have about yourself. Okay. And the habits and the small wins that you have on a daily basis will actually shape your mind, your self-belief, and will put you on your strongest path towards achieving something in life. Okay, whatever that is that you're going after. Okay, small habits make big difference. Our outcomes are delayed measure of our habits. He says we expect spectacular results overnight. It will not happen. He says I have not seen anyone getting that, and I am following some of the major gurus, and I have huge respect for them. And most of us are under the false illusion that they've achieved something in 1 year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time. But if you have a chance to get close to them, like I have had the opportunity, when you speak to them, interact with them, they are very open and they share with you that their journeys has been like 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's not like 1 or 2 months or 1 or 2 years even. And and it is the discipline, the selfless in a kind of a approach that they have, the approach of helping others, of giving, adding value to other people, that has actually driven them on the path of creating their self identity, that they are meant for giving value to others. And then that has shaped their habits, daily habits, and they have, like almost like a spiritual guru, they have actually gone through that journey of walking through fire, getting a lot of rejections, and then coming out of that, formulated habits, and then come up winners in the end of not few months, few years, of long journeys, of 10 years, 11 years, even 5 6 years sometimes, but even longer years sometimes. Okay, so small habits can make big difference. Our outcomes are a delayed measure of our habits. Most people make changes, don't see results quickly enough, and they give up. In fact, I think there's a quote also by someone, I don't remember who. The quote is that if there is something which you can achieve very easily and it comes to you very easily, then it was hardly worth it. Okay, something to that effect. So every small habits will add up one over the other, and then give you the results that you are really wanting to get. Then he says that there is a value of disappointment which you need to be careful of. He says people put in work for hours, days, weeks, and expect linear growth, especially when you start off. It's happened to me. That's why I'm telling you this. Is that my experience had been that when I started off with any business, I had expectation that I will do extremely well. But when those expectations didn't fulfill for a period of time, then you look at what is the next thing to do. So you leave that and do something else. But the real truth is that initially the results will not be coming at all. It will take you a lot of time. In fact, as I'm remembering one depiction yesterday I saw in some video yesterday. This gentleman put it very beautifully. He said that there are steps for your success, and the first step that he has depicted in that example, in that pictorial depiction, was a step which would like almost look like a wall. It is taller than the person. That is the first step. The second step is after that. The third step, fourth step, maybe 15 steps are there, which is depicted there. But the first step is like a wall. I love that depiction, because we know that initially anything that you embark upon, it's going to be very, very tough for you. And once you start that path and you are there with that journey, which is seeming to be difficult, and if you are patient with yourself, the next step gets easier. Not so easy, but slightly easier. The third step gets more easier. Fourth step, you might falter down and fall down, but it's definitely on a path, because the direction is correct. You know that they are headed in the right direction, and it will definitely give you a lot of success. The fifth steps get easier, sixth step get easier, and then it comes to a stage where your mere thought or intention of success in that path will make it happen for you, manifest it for you. So initially it is all the physical labor and not seeing results. And then maybe the second stage, if I had to broadly divide into second stage, where you would see your results commensurate to the efforts that you're putting in. But the third stage is where your mere thought, your mere intention, your good intention, your thought for yourself and for your team will itself give you results which are like multifold, right? So he says that, but the truth is different. Initially, there is very little tangible progress, and most people get discouraged and they give up because the progress is not linear as they expected. They feel all their work is wasted. They feel as though the work is wasted, and this is the time which is called as valley of disappointment. Expectations are much higher. Results are not in keeping with that expectation. The linear, from all the results from all the hard work are not seeming to be coming. But the author says, please be rest assured, it is on the way for sure. It is there. It is coming your way. And the best thing is to see around, look around, and don't make judgments about people who are successful, even in the positive way, I'm saying, because you don't know what journey they've gone through. So don't be too harsh on yourself. Be looking up to them, learn from them, and never ever discount the fact that you are also in the way of making yourself the kind of person that they have become, if you're aspiring to become like them, right? So life is non-linear. Most people expect linear progress, but instead progress compounds over time, and hence results show up in a non-linear fashion. It's a very powerful part, so that's why I went a little slow in this. And then this is the same point which I mentioned earlier. He says goals versus systems. He says don't focus too much on the outcome, don't focus too much on the goals. Have the goal, and that goal should help you to set the course for your direction of the movement. The course is in this direction. I want to move from this city to this city in the flight, so the course is already set. So that's a goal already set, that I'm going to head in this direction. After that, do not worry too much about the goal. Focus on building the systems, and those systems will actually take you towards the goal. And all along, work on your self identity. Okay, that will help you to create those habits and take you to that level. So he says systems, and is the process you need to employ to get the results. If you want to make progress, we must implement systems. Goals delay happiness. If you want to fall in love with the process, you don't have to wait to accomplish the goal in order to feel happy. And he also tells that mostly people who are goal oriented and only outcome oriented will be delaying their happiness, and they will not enjoy the journey. Number one. Number two is that as soon as they achieve that goal, that outcome, they will still be dissatisfied. They will be looking at what next, what next. And there is nothing wrong with that. But if you're systems focused, then even if it is like what next, you already enjoyed the journey of having achieved this goal, this outcome. And the next level is another fun time for you to enjoy the journey of putting a new system in place to go to the next level, looking for a new mentor, and who can actually elevate your performance to the next level. Okay, so that's what it is. Very, very practical things mentioned in this book. And he says that make it attractive. That is the journey, make it very attractive. He says irresistible habits are when an opportunity is more likely to be formed when it is highly attractive. That means the outcome or the feeling of satisfaction that you get based on the outcome is made irresistible. Okay, and he's given some techniques for us to make those habits happen for us, because that's what will help us to go. He's given some practical examples of methods of doing like something called habit stacking. He says that there are certain things that you can bundle together, certain things that you anyway do, like waking up in the morning, going for a brush, probably walking or having a glass of water for yourself, all of that. You can squeeze in certain new habits into that through the habit of making like a habit stacking. Like, and he says that you should verbalize it. He gives the example of these Japanese trains. He says in Japan, the supervisors who are there in the platform, what they do is they verbalize and they indicate with their hands. For example, if they say, if the train were to start, they will point out towards the signal and say, signal is green. Okay, and they will verbalize it and they will show it also. So the advantage of that is that, first of all, the things will be followed religiously. Number one, there will be less chance of mistakes, and the second thing is it will be formed like a habit. So he says that if you can have this method of stacking the habits and also verbalizing it. For example, if you were to decide to do exercise, push-ups, only saying that I'll do push-ups tomorrow will not help. From tomorrow I'll do the push-ups will not help. If I can say that I will do push-ups tomorrow in the morning, as soon as I finish brushing my teeth, and I'll do 5 push-ups. For example, I can say I'll do 5 push-ups daily in the morning after I wake up, go to the washroom, come out, brush my teeth, and then have a glass of water, and then I do 5 push-ups. Okay, so if you verbalize it in a sequence, then you're forming a system and a habit which will be easy for you to implement. That's what he says practically. And then he goes on to say things like, very important, society shapes our habit. There is a very important example here. Okay, very, very interesting. He says there was this Hungarian man who's in the 60s, whose belief was that you can create champions and you can make champions. They're not born. You can make champions, he said. And what he did is that he found a spouse, a girlfriend, a woman to marry with, who actually had the same thought process. She also believed that, yes, we have to raise a family, and a family, the children can be groomed in a particular way. So the mission of the couple was to raise kids who would become chess champions eventually. Now, they didn't have any history of having family champions who are into chess, right? So what they did is the daughters were homeschooled. The entire culture and the environment which they created for the children was around chess. Okay, so from a very young age, they were surrounded by chess books, photos, names of stars in chess, people who are champions, and are talking about them and making them feel good about those champions, all of that. So the girls competed in chess competitions and tournaments and became grandmasters by the time they reached their teens itself. In fact, he says that the youngest child, the third child, was a champion, a grandmaster at the age of 5 years, it seems. Okay, so they're the Polgar sisters, and they grew up in a society which prioritized chess above everything else, praised them for it, and rewarded them for their chess accomplishment. So when you create an environment for yourself also, which is conducive towards a particular habit, which is an identity created for yourself around that habit, around that self-image, around that thought process that I am good with this, I am the world's best with this, I am among the top 5% in the world as far as this knowledge goes. When you have this kind of image and when you build your, forget about society, he talks about society here, but also for yourself also, if you can build a system around that, then automatically you will see wonders happening for you in your life. Okay, so then he says all these beautiful stuff he talks about. He says that we imitate the habits of our close and near ones, and if there is a majority of people following a habit, we automatically tend to follow that. Then he says we also like to emulate the habits of the rich, the famous, the successful, the powerful, and all of that. Okay, so there are three things that shape our habits. One is the close ones, that is the environment that we are living in or we are mingling with, our friends, our colleagues, our home, all of that, our neighbors maybe. The second one is the majority, that is if the majority of the people are following that, then you will tend to follow that. And the third one is the powerful or the successful. Okay, so he talks about this as well. Very, very nice concept, very, very practical concept. Okay, so he says your implementation intention is very, very important when you especially want to change habits or when to inculcate and add new habits. And these are actually the ones he's given some practical examples of some tests and studies done where three groups of people were given, and he, in this example, what he's trying to say is that just having an intention will not do. Just understanding at your psychological level or at your mental level that there is a reason for this and it's important, that reason, and that's why you have to do it. Just to give an example, he's given an example of exercising. Just being told to exercise for a person who's not exercising will not do. Just being told and given information that these are the reasons why exercise is important, these are statistics, that is not going to help. The third category is where you have a practical method and a plan for you to implement that exercise habits. That will take you to a stage where you will inculcate that habit, enjoy that habit, and fully follow that habit over a period of time. Okay, and he gives some beautiful tips also. He talks about 2-minute rules, where he says that make any new activity manageable by having 2 minutes. Okay, just do it for 2 minutes. I gave that example in the past also, that you wake up in the morning, just do 2 minutes of exercise or 5 minutes of exercise. Don't be too harsh on yourself. If you're starting off, don't be too harsh on yourself. This is a way to build easily achievable habits that can lead you to greater things. Simply getting started is the most important step, and then you can get started with the 2 minutes rule. Make your habits immediately satisfying, that when you find yourself doing some habit, reward yourself. Okay, and go for immediate gratification. Okay, maybe treat yourself for a good outing or something like that. Okay, so it's make the habit as easy as possible to adopt. Reduce the friction. For example, if I've decided that tomorrow morning onwards I'll start going to the gym, then it's easier if I keep my shoes ready, my socks ready, my garments and the stuff that is required for my gym, all that ready, my bands ready and all of that, right? And if I'm going to take the help of my friends, call them up. Hey guys, tomorrow are we meeting in Kabul Park? Let's go out for a run, right? So all of those will help us and reduce the friction. So you're not depending on yourself. You're trying to create a system which will help you to reduce the friction. Okay, very, very beautiful practical tips and a very easy to implement. And this habit stacking thing which I covered in the past, He says increase the odds of sticking if you have habit stacking. A lot of people fail at maintaining new habits because they don't use proper tools like habit stacking. When it comes to building new habits, you can use the connectedness of behavior to advantage. That means you say, verbalize and say, in the morning when I wake up, after I pick up milk for the house, after that I will go for a short run, 5 minutes run around the apartment or in the park. Okay, so when you verbalize it and you link it with something else, some other activity, it becomes easier for you to follow that. So it says habit stacking is a special form of implementing intention. Instead of pairing a new habit with time and location, you could link it to an existing habit, he says. Okay. And some amazing stuff in this book. I will just talk about this very, very important example that he's given. He says that in an university professor of photography, he divided his students into two groups. The first group was given the evaluation method for them, that you'll be graded on the quality of the photos that you submit. So at the end of the semester, I don't care whether you have one photo produced or two photo produced or three photos produced. I want a spectacularly high quality photograph, and I'm going to judge you on the basis of that, he said. And the second group, he says, are going to be graded on the number of photos submitted. It doesn't matter. Quality doesn't matter. He says, just go out and churn out 90, 100, 200 photographs. Just go out and churn out photographs. And the results were shocking. Okay. He says that the results, the group one produced mediocre photos, while group two produced much better photos. He says the quantity group spent all their time practicing and honing their skills, while the quality group spent their time sitting around and speculating about the perfection. So the quantity group were actually translated into quantity, into action. And the quality group actually just figured out motions, that they were doing some things which might not give them the results. Okay, so this is very practical. Okay, for us also, when you look at some new business, or when you look at honing a skill and becoming very good at that skill, if you were to take the first step, even if it is difficult, seemingly difficult, and if you were to do it consistently and make it a habit, a level of unconsciously getting into that habit and being able to do it without even thinking, then automatically that consistent action, that amount of hours that you spend on a daily basis, it might be even 30 minutes in a day, but that 30 minutes cumulative over a period of time will bring it to a place which is not even recognizable by you. Okay, so that is what is said by the author. And he says there is a Goldilocks rule. He says we experience peak motivation when working on tasks which are at the edge of our current abilities. That means if you make the task very difficult, then we'll lose interest. He gives an example also, that if you're playing chess against the grandmaster, then you'll not be interested. And if you're playing against a small child, 1 or 2 days you'll be playing, but after that you'll lose interest. But if you're challenging yourself with a player who is slightly better than you, or maybe 2-3 levels higher than you, then automatically you'll be motivated to do that activity again and again. So he says the task must be roughly 4% beyond your current ability to achieve flow state, and not too easy, not too hard, but just right. Work on the task just of manageable difficulty. And he says fall in love with boredom. Okay, very, very important point. He says that anything that is achieved in life is actually achieved by doing it consistently, to the extent that it gets so boring, so mundane. I keep telling, in the field that I'm in, the presentations that I'm doing, I tell them, and I tell my team, that's what I learned from my mentors. Just do it the same way. It's okay. It works for someone. It'll work for you as well. Don't try to reinvent the wheel and try to say that, okay, I will change it. Because if you can duplicate your style of functioning, then automatically more leaders will be created with you, and they'll learn it from you very easily and implement it as well. So the greatest threat to success, is saying, is not failure, but boredom. He says, keep going when the work is not exciting. Professionals stick to their habits. Amateurs let life get in the way. Very beautifully, shared. And I think this is the practical aspect of things that he has covered in this book. And it was amazing journey for me to read this book and many other books that I'll share with you in the next few days. And these books, these authors, I think huge respect for these people. Just look at the way they've dedicated their life to a particular cause, and they're giving us this condensed wisdom, which you can actually, depending on your ability to learn, a few hours to a few days, you can get all those skills, all that knowledge, and best of all, implement that knowledge and take yourself and your game to the next level. So I can see some comments here. Thanks, Bala. Yeah, good. I think you're traveling today, right? Good. Rishi Ganguly, great, fantastic. Sarvanan, superb. Absolutely. Consistent efforts never fail. Consistent, small efforts, habits which can become a part of your daily routine will take you to a place which is going to be unrecognizable for you as well as the people who are around you. Okay. So with that, I would like to end this live session. Please feel free to reach out to me if there were any questions, any comments. You can please feel free to add in this chat box, and this will be there forever, this recording. And if there's any comments, I will see that. I don't think there's any further comments. Good. Okay, fine. So with this, thank you all. All the very best to you. Keep rocking and read this book. It's a very interesting read for all of us. All the best.
Hi, welcome to my new live series where I'm going to be reviewing some of the must-read books. Self-education is known to make us a fortune, right? Right. Okay, you're the average of 5 people that you hang out with, right? Absolutely right. Let me be very frank with you. My self-image with regards to my reading abilities until the beginning of 2021 was nothing much to feel proud of. But something changed in me during January 2021. 2 people influenced me hugely to take to reading. From an average of 1 book a year, I have been able to do justice to an average of 2 to 3 books per month. Pretty good, right? I figured that self-education in the formats of reading great books and being coached by some of the great mentors are 2 of the fastest ways and best ways to grow exponentially. Reading and being open to being coached also helps us with the law of 5 people averages. You get access and time to some of the best and greatest thought leaders of this generation. I am Satish Rao. I am an abundance crusader, vlogger, online and network marketer. I am doing this live book review session to share my insights from some of these amazing books that are relevant to each and everyone among us who is committed and passionate about creating abundance in all areas of our lives. See you all soon.